Ever get that feeling like you're this close to achieving something big, but suddenly the urge to just give up becomes completely overwhelming?
Absolutely.
It's like the universe has a personal vendetta against you and is throwing every obstacle in your path.
It's so true.
You're definitely not alone.
Right.
You sent in this really interesting podcast episode, Don't Give Up Before You Succeed. And it got me thinking about this very thing.
It's like that saying, the night is darkest just before dawn. We often face the most intense resistance just when we're on the verge of a breakthrough. And this podcast really digs into that feeling.
Yeah, it's so true. And you know, it's fascinating. They use the example of J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter. Think about it, 12 rejections from publishers. 12.
It really makes you wonder about all the incredible stories that never get told because people give up too soon. It makes you question the whole publishing industry a bit, doesn't it? What makes one person's no, another person's eventual yes? And sometimes it's not even about talent alone, but resilience and timing.
Right.
Yeah.
It speaks to something deeper about the nature of success. It's not always a straight shot to the top. The podcast also brought up Michael Jordan getting cut from his high school basketball team. If someone like him faced setbacks, it really puts things in perspective for the rest of us.
Absolutely. It highlights that setbacks are a universal part of any journey, even for those who achieve extraordinary things. And you know what I find particularly helpful is that the podcast doesn't just leave us with inspiring stories. It actually offers some really practical advice for those moments when giving up feels tempting.
Okay, let's unpack that. What were some of the strategies they suggested?
Well, one that resonated with me is the idea of remembering your why when you're bogged down by challenges. Reconnecting with the deeper reason behind your goal can be incredibly powerful. Is it about personal fulfillment? Making a difference in the world? Tapping into that core motivation can fuel you to keep going.
Yeah. It's like that saying, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, right? But sometimes you need that reminder of why you even embarked on the journey in the first place. I like that. What else did they talk about?
Something else that stood out was the advice to break down overwhelming goals into smaller, more manageable milestones.
Yes, I'm a big fan of that strategy. It's so much less daunting to think about taking one step at a time rather than focusing on the entire staircase.
Exactly. And as you achieve these smaller milestones, it creates a sense of progress, which can be incredibly motivating. They also highlighted the importance of celebrating those small victories along the way.
Small wins are huge. It's like giving yourself little rewards and acknowledging your progress, which could really boost your morale when things get tough. Did they talk about seeking support from others? Because I found that to be super helpful in my own life.
They did. They emphasized the importance of having a support system, whether it's a mentor who's been there, a friend who can offer encouragement, or even a professional coach. Having someone to talk to, bounce ideas off of, and provide guidance can make all the difference.
It's so easy to get caught up in our own heads,
Right.
especially when we're facing challenges. Having that outside perspective can really help us stay on track.
Absolutely. And speaking of gaining perspective, the podcast also touched on the importance of self-care. They emphasized that rest and rejuvenation are just as important as the hustle.
Oh, I love that. We often glorify pushing ourselves to the limit.
Right.
But sometimes taking a step back can actually be the most productive thing you can do. Did they give any specific examples of self-care strategies?
They talked about the importance of getting enough sleep, eating nourishing foods, and incorporating movement into your routine. Even just taking a few minutes each day to disconnect from work or technology can make a difference.
Yeah. It's like that classic advice of putting on your own oxygen mask first. You can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Exactly. And sometimes self-care might even look like asking for help when you need it, whether it's delegating tasks, seeking support from loved ones, or even considering therapy.
It's a good reminder that we don't have to do everything on our own. It's okay to lean on others when we need it. You know, something else they mentioned in the podcast that really resonated with me was the idea of visualization. Have you found that to be helpful in your own life?
Absolutely. Visualizing yourself achieving your goal can be incredibly powerful. It's like giving your subconscious mind a blueprint for success.
It's like they say, if you can see it, you can achieve it, right?
Precisely. The podcast emphasizes that the more detailed and vivid your visualization, the more effective it will be.
So instead of just thinking, I want to finish writing my book, I should visualize myself typing the last words, feeling a sense of accomplishment, holding the published book in my hands, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Engage all your senses. What do you see, hear, feel, even smell? The more real you make it in your mind, the more your brain starts to believe it's possible.
That's fascinating. I'm gonna have to try that.
I encourage you to. Now, towards the end of the podcast, they shared a piece of advice that I think ties everything together beautifully.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
They emphasize the importance of focusing on progress, not perfection.
Progress over perfection. I love that.
Right.
It's so easy to get caught up in striving for flawlessness that we end up procrastinating or worse, giving up altogether.
It's like we become our own worst critics. But this podcast reminds us that success isn't about being perfect. It's about making progress, however imperfect it may be.
Yeah. It's about celebrating the small victories, learning from our setbacks, and moving forward one step at a time. The podcast really emphasizes that giving up is a choice, not an inevitability.
Precisely. They leave the listener with this powerful message. You are capable of more than you realize. Don't give up before you experience the incredible things you're capable of achieving.
That's so inspiring. And it speaks to the heart of this whole deep dive, doesn't it? It's about recognizing those moments when we feel like giving up.
Yeah.
And then consciously choosing to persevere.
Absolutely. And remember, those moments of doubt are normal. Everyone experiences them, even the most successful people in the world. The key is to not let those moments define us.
So for anyone listening who might be facing their own darkest hour, remember this. You've got this. Take a deep breath, reconnect with your why, break down those goals into manageable steps, and keep moving forward, even if it's just one tiny step at a time.
That's exactly it. And don't forget to celebrate those small wins along the way.
Yes, celebrate every victory, no matter how small, because each step forward, no matter how tiny, is bringing you closer to your ultimate goal. This has been such a great deep dive, incredibly motivating and thought-provoking. What are your takeaways? What one small step will you take today to keep that momentum going? Keep pushing forward. We're cheering you on.